Hello, Lindsay with Parenting Autism United. For our video today, we were thinking of just chatting about what it's like to go out into the community. And I'm just going to use our weekend and a conversation I had with a parent on Sunday, a little bit about those two things. So, when our kids are younger and this is all hitting us kind of hard, just the autism diagnosis, learning about this, everything that comes with it. It was very difficult to go out in public because you felt like everyone was staring at you, judging you, considering you to be a bad parent, a lot of dirty looks, and overall, it was not worth going out. Also, it was super stressful because you still didn't know what to do as a parent. So, as our kids get older and we become, more educated and, zero F's given, you do go out because you're comfortable and you can handle the situation, you can handle it, but people don't bother you anymore. It doesn't matter who you are. Nothing that you can do is going to bother me unless you're, attacking us in some way, verbally or physically. Um, so, but it took me a while to understand that if I was out and there was this noise or disturbance, it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to look. And it took me a while to handle that with grace. There's a different way to let me educate you, right? Like that comes off very confrontational and aggressive, but there's a different way to educate. So when you're in public, and this Saturday we were at the soccer fields and they have the most wonderful little track that goes around. So we maximize any opportunity that we can. So to get him to just kind of get some of his anxiety out from being out of the house or whatever, I said we have to do 3 full laps. Now, he was happy to do that. But each lap I picked up the pace and he had to stay with me. And then the third lap, I picked up the pace again and he had to stick with me. So I got his heart rate up and he had to stay with me. But throughout that time frame, he was flapping and he makes a lot of noise, just being himself. So when people look at me, whether it's kids or adults, we just smile. We're like, hello. Like, and in the past, I would have tried to maybe ignore it or whatever. If we're out and a little kid is staring, I make sure to really engage that little kid without freaking anyone out. I'll be like, hi, this is Jackson. And I'll just try to really help them understand that they can look, they can ask questions, but they're being exposed to somebody who's different. The parents who try to take their kids out of that situation, I am definitely talking to you. If I see you do that, I'm like, "Oh no, we're perfectly fine." This, and I don't even give them the opportunity. I'm like, "This is Jackson. What's your name?" Like I'm done with the negativity. I'm done with it. Now, when it comes to the adults, that's where the different situation lies. So I'm going to just go over 3 different examples. And I'll end with one that happened the same day at the soccer fields. But last spring, so about a year ago, Jackson was very into abandoned buildings. So when the Walgreens would close, there was one in Pittston that closed, but he knows everything because he loves geography. So he's like, we were going to Pittston to see the Walgreens that was closing. He wanted to go see it. But it's also right there by Tractor Supply, who at the time had baby chicks. And then also right next to it is the Redner's, I think, grocery store or whatever. So we went in and it was April. And the woman doing the checkout, because we just got like a really like body bag size of popcorn. It was like really cool. We got that for his brother's birthday present from Jackson. So we were checking out, and this woman who was probably in her 50s or 60s, She was doing the checkout line, and Jackson wanted to see her name tag, but it was flipped around. So, but he gets real close. So, and that can be, I get it. If somebody's invading your space, that can be very jarring. But she gave him the dirtiest look, and she was like looking over at her fellow cashiers who were high school girls, very young high school girls. And she was just like, oh, like, my gosh, like, get a load of this. So, not for nothing, sweetheart, you don't bother me. And for me to school or educate you isn't going to make a difference for you. But what I can do is talk loud enough so that those girls who are young and more worldly than their coworker, I'm like, oh, it's so great that for Autism Awareness Month, we're being kind today. And we're doing all sorts of great things here at Redner's where everyone is so nice. Like, just, I did it so that those girls could hear me. I don't care about this lady. She could go get bent. But there's nothing that I could do or say that's going to change her disposition to her life or whatever experiences she's coming across. You can be a horrible human being. And if that suits you, go ahead. You're the one who's miserable. You're not going to impact our life at all whatsoever. So again, I educated, but I didn't care about educating her. I educated her high school coworkers so that maybe they understood. And that's the thing. They could see it from where they were. And I was like, get out of town. Like, you are insane. Like, lady, like, you're so rude. But again, at the end of the day, Jackson didn't know what was going on at all. You're not harming me. You're just being a D-bag. So there was that. And then over the summer, we had an issue with one of his scripting type things where even if I was exactly doing this, I was walking to the cash register and I had 3 $1 bills and he was carrying a very regular sized water bottle to the cashier to leave. And his script that he does all the time is, what if I steal this? Well, my response is, what if? And he would usually promptly say, I will get grounded, or will I get arrested, or something along those lines. And I just walk him through it. Well, before we could even get to that, and we're like 3 feet from the register, and there's an older woman and a middle-aged woman working at this very close gas station to us. And he says, what if I steal it? And I start to do my thing. And the older one just jumps right in. I will call the cops on you. No, not in my, business or workplace or whatever. And she was just like all tough and, and I'm like, clearly the dollar bills are in my hand. Yes, that's something that you don't want anyone to say. However, if you spend more than 10 seconds looking at Jackson and listening to the situation, it is extremely clear that he has autism. Yeah, you can't see it, but if you paid attention for half a fucking second, you would see that there's something else going on here, right? And I had the money in my hand. It's not like he was going to steal it. Like, come on. But I understand if you don't understand it, but at the same time, she could have just used her eyeballs. Eyeballs and ears, and you should have been able to understand it. So it was on Black Friday when that happened. So we had already gone to the movies that day. We had already stopped at the grocery store, and I had to go to the bank. So this was all, he was overstimulated, but even if he wasn't, like, nobody was in a state, like, nothing was crazy. He wasn't inciting a riot or causing harm, like, whatever. So at the time, I was already done with the day. And I was like, you know what? Guess where we're going to be 2 or 3 times a week, every week as soon as we can start doing it. We're going to be here. You're going to learn. She is going to learn about autism, whether she wants to or not, because we're just going to show up all the fucking time. That's how we do it. That's how we educate. I don't need to be rude. I don't need to say, hey, X, Y, and Z. I don't need to give you a dirty look. We're just going to come in all the time. And we're going to work on things with him specifically when she's there. He doesn't know what we're doing. She doesn't know what we're doing. But we're going to be there all the time. Now there's another gas station that we just love. It's the Dallas Quick Mart. We just absolutely love it. They are so kind to both of my boys all the time. It's ridiculous. They're so awesome. We spend most of our money there. And that's the thing. We might just walk in and walk out for the other one. I don't care. She's going to learn. So the other great experience that we had was also this weekend at the soccer fields. As we were done with our third lap around the track, we got a new car recently, and it's white with, the windows are tinted, but there happened to be like 5 or 6 white SUVs with the same like tint, and so they weren't very different. So Jackson doesn't know our new car yet very well. So as we're walking to his side, and he will just rip open his door. He doesn't know or care if it's going to hit. He doesn't understand that if it hits the car next to us, it's bad, right? Or if it hits a pole, if we're parked close to the shopping cart thing or whatever. He doesn't understand that. So especially if it's windy or if somebody else parked closer to us, because when we parked, there was nobody on that side of our car. And that's kind of what had happened here. So the woman was in her car, and Jackson immediately put both of his hands on both sides. And I was behind him, and I was like, oh, she immediately rolled down her window, and she's like, it's fine. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. But I'm going to work on this with him if you're okay with that. She was like, absolutely. So I wanted to stop him for 2 reasons. One, he was touching somebody else's car. And it's not the worst thing, but it's also not something I want him to think about that and be conscientious about that. But then the other thing was I didn't have time to get ahead of him to really help him not whip his door open. So it was like, stop. So, but I tell you what, we had the nicest conversation. I love your sunglasses. I was like, Amazon, $14. And it was like, oh, I have glasses. I'm like, all this other stuff. I'm like, oh, my vision is changing because I'm in perimenopause. It was just like this wonderful, quick, small conversation, but total 100% acceptance. And this was after we had done the stimming and the kids were, looking, but not giving dirty looks. But even if they gave dirty looks, it's not even dirty looks. I think a lot of people confuse dirty looks with someone being confused. Like, what is going on? What is all that noise? And then if it's something that they haven't been exposed to, like somebody with autism, or somebody with that type of autism, because everyone's different. Everyone has their different things. So there's a way to be out in our community, and, the village that, it takes a village, all this, that, and the other. It's true. It really is. My husband was at the dollar store by, right here in Shavertown, and it was closer to closing time. And there was a woman there with her 2 kids, and it was very obvious that there was something going on. He offered to help her, and when her kids were grabbing everything as she was trying to check out, and so he was like, I got this. Like, he went with it. He recognized the situation, and she broke down, and she was like, we only come out right before the stores close because it's too hard for us to go and when other people are around. And that's the thing. It's not too hard for her. It's other people being nasty, and we just nobody got time for that. We just don't have time for that. We already have so much shit going on all the time. I have no more extra room for your drama or your, bigotry or, all that stuff. There's no room for that. And that's why it's so funny, because seasoned autism parents are just kind of like, I don't care. Like, you don't bother me. And it might come off as being rude. I do not have time for that. I will educate you when and if I have time, and if you're open to it. If you're asking, that's a great thing. But I'm not going to spend any more time on that cashier at Redner's. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to stop at the one gas station when I can, and I'll make it a point a few times. But I mean, it'll happen over time for us. But I'm not going to lose sleep over somebody else being ignorant. And that goes for anyone: family, friends, employers, professionals, medical staff, wait staff, coaches. I don't have time for that. And I think that is something that anxiety that we carry with time as seasoned autism parents, it goes away. So I know that for those younger families, that feeling, it's there, and it might be there for years. And it does rear its ugly head when you get into some sticky situations later on. And, because our kids are constantly changing and all that fun stuff. But it really is something that it's a blessing, because once you've been through all the bullshit, you just don't give a shit about that. The big picture, the grand scheme of things is that type of crap is not important, what somebody else is thinking. So our goal today is to help anyone who might feel a certain way, nervous, anxious, about going out. What happens is you are missing opportunities. You are creating a monster for everyone. You're isolating yourself by doing this. You're isolating your family. You're isolating your child. And if you need to do that, by all means, do what you have to do. But the longer you do that, the worse it's going to be when you have to go back out. So our other tip is to go out as often as you can. Do as much as you can with your child. Get them because it really is so easy just to say, hey, can you stop on your way home? Which is, we still do it. It's part of our life. But we already stopped at 3 places today. I don't want to go to another one and have a meltdown. And that's understandable. But anytime you can create those opportunities earlier, instead of getting into a rut of not going, ordering everything off Amazon, that's, again, do what you have to do for your family. But we've been able to see what happens when you don't get out of your house. These social skills are being lost on everyone, neurodivergent and neurotypical people. It's just, those social skills just are going away, but it's a problem. It's a huge problem. So, but yeah, educate in a way that works for you. If you feel so inclined, when somebody is not being kind or open, or even just not necessarily accommodating, but basically just don't be a dick. Don't be a dick. Okay. So that's our little tip for today. And yeah, I mean, we got stories coming out of our ears. My husband almost got into an altercation at the freaking bowling alley out here because some idiot wearing a suit in a bowling alley bar wants, you to take your kid outside. It's like, so you can pick up your food in peace and quiet in a bar, in a bowling alley for pizza. Like, he ended up getting kicked out. And it wasn't my husband that had to do anything, even though it felt great. The whole place was there. And it was just because they had really spotty Wi-Fi at the time. And Jackson was having a hard time. And he was also like 4 years, it was like 4 or 5 years ago. He was very young. And they were just waiting for pizza. And somebody, doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, you don't have to be ignorant. So just be a good human, be a good person. And that's our little tip for today. Hope this helps anyone. So, all right, thanks.